If you're serving in the United States Army, there's a possibility that you could end up spending your entire Army career at one duty station with the same unit, but typically that would probably only happen if maybe you only did 4 years and got out of the Army. If you're gonna go beyond 4 years of being in the Army, then there's the possibility, most likely, that you will change duty assignments, you will change leadership, you will change units, and you might be curious as to how some of those logistics work. How does that kind of end up going? So let's dive into that, and if you're curious more about the United States Army, you wanna stay up to date, all sorts of fun stuff, then make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below. Subscribe, click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as new videos go live and become a part of that awesome notification platoon. But let's dive into some things, all right? We're gonna be talking about how it kind of works logistically, how it might happen, where you're gonna find out that, hey, you're going to another duty assignment, or sometimes it's even voluntary. A common term you may hear this being used with is called PCS. That is kind of changing units, right? You're PCSing to a new location. You came up on orders to PCS. You're gonna be PCSing to this location to be assigned to this unit. So that's a common term you'll actually hear kind of used with this changing units and changing duty assignments. So how does this happen? Well, it used to be a thing where basically after about 2 or 3 years, you probably come up on orders to get reassigned somewhere else. Nowadays in the Army, not quite as quickly as it used to be. Now they don't want to take people out of their units once they've gotten really good with that unit, gotten efficient, gotten well trained, and then take that person away from that unit, and now that unit has to retrain some new soldiers. So typically they will leave a soldier there for a little bit longer than just simply 2 years. So it probably won't be a thing where just after 2 years you end up getting reassigned, unless it's something like your first duty assignment was like Korea or Germany or something like that, then that can be probably a case. But if your first duty assignment is somewhere in the United States, then most likely you could end up spending an entire 4 years there, and then after your first contract is up, then maybe trying to go somewhere else, then maybe you might have an opportunity to do that. Soldiers do sometimes come up on orders. Sometimes it's a thing where, higher ranking individuals or certain MOSs or whatever, they're in desperate need at different duty assignments. That unit over at this other location is about to deploy and they're really short on soldiers and they don't want brand new soldiers. They'd rather have some soldiers that have been in for a while, and you might end up coming up on orders to get reassigned to that unit in a different location. Another common way that soldiers end up in this scenario of changing locations is that they re-enlist for it. Their contract is coming up to the end and they re-enlist and they want to decide where they want to go from there, and they can pick a duty assignment as long as it's available. So it can be a combination of sort of different ways, but let me also talk about what happens, okay? How does this work when I'm actually leaving one unit to go to another unit somewhere else? So you're gonna receive orders usually from your leadership. It used to come just in the mail and then you'd have to tell your leadership about it, but now it's more common that your leadership knows about it and then they pass it on to you to tell you, hey, you got this, you got orders, you're gonna be going somewhere else now. That's usually like several months out. That's usually not a thing where like next week you're gonna be reporting over there. No, it's usually like several months out. You're probably gonna know 3 months, 6 months, give or take, here or there, as far as how long you have before you need to report to your next duty assignment at that next location. So before you actually take off to that next location, you have to go through a clearing process. So you're gonna have to clear that current installation. Let's say, just as an example, you're stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. So you're gonna have to start clearing things on Fort Carson. You're gonna have to clear things at your unit, things at post, all sorts of things, and this can possibly be done in about 2 weeks-ish kind of a thing. That's usually how much time they give you, usually is 2 weeks, but some cases they kind of screw you over and maybe only get like a week or whatever, but I think ideally they're supposed to give you 2 weeks to be able to go through the clearing process. You'll probably be putting in for like leave, right? Because a lot of people, what they want to do is before they go to that next duty assignment, they want to take leave in between to maybe do some things, take care of some things, whatever, before they go to that next assignment. Now that's not required, but a lot of people usually choose to do that, to take a little bit of PCS leave. So they put in for the leave, and then prior to them starting leave is when they will have to start the clearing process. If they are not taking leave, then it just starts probably about 2 weeks or so prior to them supposed to be. If they're not going to take leave, then the process usually takes place about 2 weeks before they're supposed to report to their next duty assignment. During that clearing process, right, you have some equipment you have to turn in, probably your unit. Nowadays, they usually have you kind of keep a lot of this stuff you get from CIF, that central issuing facility, the gear that you get from the Army to utilize like vests and helmets and everything. They used to do it back in the day where you would go from one installation to another one, and you had to turn in all of your stuff to them, and then, draw new stuff at your next duty assignment. And they don't really do that completely anymore. Now, what they tend to do is some of the items usually you'll keep, and some of it you'll have to turn in, and then the stuff that you turned in, you may have to redraw when you get to your next duty assignment. So there's potential that some items will have to get turned into CIF and some items might come with you. So there's multiple things you're clearing on post. You know, you're checking with like the library to make sure you don't have any overdue library books or books that didn't get checked out or didn't get turned back in. There's things at your unit, there's other locations on post, there's all sorts of things you have to go through and clear. So you're going from all these different stations that are on this checklist and they have to sign off on it, initial off on it, stamp off on it, whatever. And then you have your final out date to be able to turn in all that paperwork and everything to show that you have cleared post and you're good. You're able to move on to wherever you're going to next. Somewhere in there will be like travel arrangements done. So there's a couple different ways you can usually arrange for travel. You can either choose to move yourself or you can choose to have the Army move you. If you choose to have the Army move you, then they're gonna have movers come and pack up all your stuff. So whether you're a single soldier living in the barracks or a married soldier living on post or off post, they have these individuals that you schedule for them to come pick up all your household goods or all your stuff inside the barracks, pack it all up for you, load it into a truck, and send it off on its way. There is the possibility during that time frame that you might be like a couple weeks or whatever without your stuff, and you just want to hang on to the bare essentials of what you need to be able to have a change of clothes, have your PT uniform, have your regular uniform, and everything else you need during the time frame before you're going to be able to get your stuff back at your next location. So you always got to make sure to plan for that. That doesn't cost you anything. The Army takes care of that. They have these contracted movers that come pick up all that stuff, box it up for you, throw it inside of a truck, and then it goes off to wherever you're going to, and you have to make arrangements for that stuff to get dropped off once you get there. We'll cover that here in a little bit, but that's one way of doing it. You can also choose to move yourself, which I think they call that a Diddy move. I don't know if they still call it that. I know that's what it was called, but you arrange to say that, hey, I am going to rent a moving truck and I'm going to load up all my stuff and I'm going to move it all myself. And then you got to keep all your receipts. And then once you go and get to your next duty assignment, then you turn all that information in and the Army will reimburse you for the costs of like renting the van and gas, and they pay you, I think, a certain amount of mileage too based on for your time or whatever kind of a thing. So they kind of reimburse you for that. If you have a vehicle, you can either choose to drive it yourself or they will ship it for you. If you're a single soldier, they only ship one vehicle. I believe if you're married, they'll do 2 vehicles though. So they will usually take care of your vehicles, but you can either choose to drive them yourself and then also get reimbursed for the gas you had to use to get it to your next duty assignment, or you can choose to have them ship the vehicle for you, whether that's stateside or even overseas. Overseas has certain requirements as far as usually if you're going overseas, even if you're married or single, I think it's only 1 vehicle, and that depends too on certain kind of factors too. Certain locations won't let you bring a vehicle over there. Like for example, usually Korea is not one of those locations that lets you bring a vehicle. So you have to kind of check to see what the requirements are, what the allocation, what you're allowed to do as far as what you can and can't bring. So from there, you know, if you take leave, then you go home, go wherever it is you're going for the leave, and then you have a report date that you have to report to your next duty assignment, whether you are driving there, flying there, whatever. Now, if it is the case that you're gonna fly to your next location, maybe it's really far away, maybe it's in another country, the Army does provide you with the plane tickets for that. So it's not something that you have to pay for and then they reimburse you later. That is something you arrange for. You arrange to have a flight, you know, leave from this location. Maybe you're, you know, stationed at Fort Carson, but your next duty assignment is gonna take you to Fort Bragg, right? But you're gonna go home to California to visit with family before you go there. So then you make the arrangements for your plane ticket from California to take you over to Fort Bragg. If you are taking leave though, you're gonna have to pay for that plane ticket to get you to California in this example that I'm using here, but they will pay for your plane ticket from where you're leaving from and then take you to where your next assignment is at. And that works the same for like going overseas. If you're going to Korea, you're going to Germany, same kind of deal. You make arrangements so that way they take care of your flight and they will pay for that and arrange it for a specific date to get you there on time so that way you can report on time. When you're reporting, you show up to what is known as basically reception. They still have reception even at regular Army. It's not just a basic training thing. It's not the same as basic training, but they do usually have like an in-processing or reception location at that next duty assignment that you're going to that you'll have to report to. So on the report day, you report in the appropriate uniform based on your orders as far as what they told you. Each location may have different requirements for reporting, and so you have to kind of make sure to read that to see what is the uniform reporting, what is the times for reporting, and all that. You show up at that new location and you report, and you probably have a whole package of paperwork that you have to hand off to them and everything, and you begin the in-processing process that probably lasts maybe a week. If you're a single soldier, they probably have barracks there at the reception area at the in-processing location. The welcome center sometimes is also called too, and you probably have to stay in those barracks. And then if you're married, well then hopefully you made some arrangements to live off post or whatever. They sometimes will have like an on-post kind of like hotel or temporary quarters type of thing that you can get to if you make arrangements for that. So you also have to kind of plan for that as well. Some individuals I know, they just go and show up at their duty assignment early so they can try to find an apartment and try to get moved in prior to even reporting. So if that's an option you want to do, you can do that. Go stay in a hotel, go stay in on-post housing if they have like some kind of lodging on post. Sometimes locations have like an on-post lodging that they'll put you in until you do get a place either on post for like on-post housing for married soldiers or off-post. And then for single soldiers, well, as soon as you're done with the in-processing kind of process, then you go off to your unit and then they're gonna stick you in their barracks that they have. In processing at that new location, a lot of it just includes kind of getting into the system at that location, gear that you're supposed to receive, getting issued that gear. You'll probably do some kind of thing where you'll do some kind of orientation with your new unit prior to going to them and to kind of learn about that unit and kind of maybe getting a little bit of a tour or something like that. That depends on the location as far as how they work that program though. Some of it does sometimes involve like medical to make sure you are up to date when you arrive. That way, you know, if there's things that wasn't taken care of at your past duty assignment, then maybe they try to take care of it here before you go off to your unit. So you spend probably about a week at reception, give or take some time frame. Before then, you have some kind of sponsor, as they a lot of times call it, that shows up from your unit that takes you over to the unit to introduce you to everybody, to introduce you to your platoon sergeant, platoon leader, all your fellow members of the platoon, and what you'll be doing. And then from there, you're at your new unit and they get you all set up there with whether it's in the barracks or if you're already living off post, then there's probably not a whole lot to do. It's just, all right, here you go, let's go to work. For that transportation stuff, usually once you arrive, you usually have someone you call to tell them, hey, I arrived, this is where I'm staying, this is where I live, you know, so if you are a married soldier, then you wouldn't want to schedule this until you found a place to live, whether that's on post or off post. But for single soldiers, once you have been established into the barracks room, then you can make an appointment for them to come and deliver all of your stuff. I didn't mention it earlier, but all of that stuff does have a requirement as far as weight. If you're a single soldier, it's a smaller amount of weight. It's not a whole lot, but it's good enough. You know, clothes, TV, all sorts of stuff. It's enough weight to be able to transport all that stuff. But if you're a married soldier, then you do get a little bit more weight. Also, rank does give you a little bit more weight too, so that does vary. When that date comes, when they're supposed to drop it off, they're kind of like, I don't know, like the cable guy type of thing, where it's, I don't know, it could be any time today. They a lot of times don't give you an exact time in most cases. So usually your leadership usually be like, okay, what is the date that they're supposed to be dropping off your goods? And on that day, you may show up for physical fitness in the morning for accountability purposes, and then the rest of the day, stay in your barracks room, stay at home, whatever, and wait for them to come deliver all your stuff. You really only have that one day. So if they deliver it, let's say Tuesday, right? It's a Tuesday, they deliver all your stuff. You don't also get Wednesday to unpack all this stuff and get everything set up. Tuesday's it, they drop all your stuff off. You gotta make time to unpack all that stuff and get everything all set up inside your barracks room or your house. And for the most part, that's it, right? There's a process, there's things you go through, there's different things that you'll do when you have to, you know, switch to another duty assignment, and how long you'll stay there really just depends on a lot of factors. They usually don't want soldiers staying an entire Army career at one installation, one location type of thing, because, you know, other units need you based on your experience. They also, you know, get to a certain point with rank. They don't want someone being the first sergeant of this specific company, troop, battery, whatever, for too long. They usually have an expiration time for your leadership before they're gonna move you over to somewhere else to be a leader there. So there's a lot of factors in there that can determine like how long you stay at a duty assignment. For me, I actually ended up being in 4 different Army units. I had a unit in Fort Riley before I went off to Korea, and then I re-enlisted so I can come to Fort Carson, where I went to one unit. That unit went to Fort Hood, Texas, so I re-enlisted so I could stay at Carson, and then I went to my last unit, which is 410 Cav on Fort Carson. So I was in 4 different units, and that was in the course of, you know, almost 11 years. For some individuals in that amount of time, they may do more than that, they may do even less than that. So it really is gonna vary. For my individuals out there that are currently watching this video, maybe veterans, how many units have you been in? How many units did you go through before you eventually got out of the Army? And those of you that are currently in the Army, how many units have you been a part of? Are you on your first unit? Are you on your second unit? Let me know down in the comment section down below. For my individuals watching this video that have not yet joined the Army or not yet joined the military, how many duty assignments are you hoping to get? You know, do you want to travel around, or are you just hoping to kind of get one specific duty assignment and hopefully stay there for your entire Army career because that's the area you want to stay in? So let me know as well. So for the most part, unless you're going to continuously re-enlist for that same duty assignment, don't expect to stay there for your entire Army career if you're going to be staying there for a long time at least. So expect that, okay? Now, I want you to continue learning about the United States Army to help you be better in the Army. So check this video out right here. YouTube says it's a great video to watch, so I recommend checking it out. Check out my links down in the description box down below. Like the video. Thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya.